6.4. Analyze test output and generate report. A very critical element you'll encounter on the exam. Here we're talking about how to interpret the results of our tests and how to create actionable reports that can drive remediation, handle exceptions, and ensure ethical disclosure. As always, this presentation is to help you to grasp how these concepts aren't isolated, but part of an interconnected system that strengthens your understanding of the exam. Right now we're going to cover three key subtasks: remediation, exception handling, and ethical disclosure. And remember, if I don't go deep enough, run the prompt on the final slide using your favorite AI assistant to go further. Again, three subtasks here, and we're broken down into remediation, which involves prioritizing the vulnerabilities, planning and tracking remediation efforts, and validating the effectiveness of the actions. 2. Exception handling. Here we focus on a structured process for managing security exceptions, including risk assessment, approval, and implementation of compensating controls. And 3. Ethical disclosure. This covers the responsible reporting of vulnerabilities, ensuring that sensitive information is protected, balancing legal and ethical considerations. As with the other tasks, you notice they overlap with other areas, so the repetition always helps. 6.4.1 Remediation. This is all about how we address vulnerabilities once they're identified, and it's critical for both your real-world security responsibilities and on the exam. Remediation is not just about fixing issues, but doing so in a way that prioritizes risks and ensures that the fixes are effective. Here are some key areas. Prioritization of vulnerabilities. You need to adopt a risk-based approach when prioritizing what to fix first. Consider the severity of the vulnerability, how easily it can be exploited, and the potential impact on the business. Remediation planning and tracking. A structured remediation plan is essential. It should include clear actions, assign responsibilities, and set deadlines for addressing each vulnerability or security gap. Patch management and deployment. Effective patch management is critical to staying ahead of vulnerabilities. This involves deploying security updates and patches across all systems and applications efficiently. Configuration and hardening update. It's not just about patching. Applying security best practices such as hardening systems and addressing misconfigurations can help reduce the attack surface. Validation and retesting. After remediation, always verify the effectiveness of the actions taken. Conduct follow-up scans and tests to make sure vulnerabilities are properly addressed and ensure no new issues have been introduced. For the exam, it's important to understand that remediation doesn't happen in a vacuum. It's part of an ongoing cyclical process of testing, fixing, and verifying. This subtask ties closely to vulnerability management and secure system design. 6.4.2 Exception handling. This subtask is all about managing situations where security standards or controls cannot be fully implemented and exceptions need to be made. Handling these exceptions properly is crucial for maintaining security while allowing flexibility when needed. The exam will test your ability to navigate these processes with a risk-based approach. Some crucial things. Risk assessment and justification. Every exception request should undergo a thorough risk assessment. This includes documenting the business justification, assessing potential security impacts, and proposing any compensating controls to mitigate the associated risks. Formal exception request process. You need to have a structured process for submitting, reviewing, and approving security exceptions. This process should include clear documentation and approval levels based on the severity of the risk. Time-bound approvals and regular reviews. Exceptions should never be open-ended. They must have a defined expiration date, and there should be a process for regular reviews and reassess the need for each exception. Compensating controls implementation. If an exception is granted, compensating controls need to be implemented to mitigate the risk. These controls should be documented and regularly validated to ensure they are effective. Exception tracking and reporting. Maintaining a centralized inventory of all security exceptions is essential. It helps with oversight, auditing, and ensuring that risks associated with exceptions are continuously monitored. In the context of the exam, you need to demonstrate an understanding of how exceptions are managed in a structured and risk-aware manner. Exception handling is closely tied to risk management governance and policy enforcement, all of which are interconnected security domains. 6.4.3 Ethical Disclosure. It's all about the responsible reporting of security vulnerabilities. This is a key area not only for passing the exam, but for maintaining trust and accountability in real-world security practices. When vulnerabilities are discovered, ethical disclosure ensures that they are handled in a way that protects the organization and the public, the common good, remember. Here are some key points. Responsible reporting. Vulnerabilities should be reported promptly and responsibly to the affected organization. It's critical to avoid unnecessary delays that could allow malicious actors to exploit the weaknesses. Coordinated vulnerability disclosure policies. Many organizations have policies in place for coordinating the disclosure of vulnerabilities. These policies outline procedures for reporting, acknowledging, and addressing vulnerabilities in collaboration with security researchers and stakeholders. Protecting sensitive information. During disclosure policies, sensitive information related to the vulnerability must be protected to prevent exploitation before a patch or mitigation is available. Legal and ethical considerations. Always consider legal and ethical implications of vulnerability disclosure. Compliance with relevant laws and regulations is essential, but so is balancing transparency and security in the process. Communication and public disclosure. When it comes time for public disclosure, it's important to have a clear communication strategy. This goal is to provide essential information to the affected parties without causing panic, while ensuring security issues are addressed properly. Ethical disclosure is critical to maintaining transparency and fostering collaboration between security professionals and the organization they work with. On the exam, you'll need to demonstrate an understanding of how to handle vulnerability disclosures ethically and responsibly, balancing legal, security, and business concerns. All right, wrapping up 6.4, analyze test output and generate report. Some key takeaways. We talked about remediation involving the prioritization of vulnerabilities based on risk, planning, and tracking remediation efforts, as well as validating the effectiveness of your actions through follow-up testing. It ensures that the identified vulnerabilities are properly addressed and that your organization is continuously improving its security posture. Exception handling. Here we implemented a structured process for managing exceptions, which includes a risk assessment, formal request and approval procedures, implementing compensating controls, and regular reviews. Exception handling allows for flexibility while maintaining control over these security risks. Ethical disclosure. Responsible reporting of vulnerabilities is essential to protect affected organizations and prevent exploitation. Following a coordinated vulnerability disclosure policy, protecting sensitive information, and balancing legal and ethical considerations are key components of ethical disclosure. And remember, all of these tasks, remediation, exception handling, and ethical disclosure, are interconnected and they reinforce the broader principles of security governance. So test it out. Come on, get out there. Wherever you think I didn't go deep enough. And remember, I keep saying now, use the other LLMs. Use at least 2, but I recommend 3, So if you don't like what one had to say, according to Gemini, you totally hallucinated that. You got to make sure they didn't make up these things, and they do, right? I mean, that's part of your goal of being an AI whisperer, is to recognize when things aren't perfect. All right. Next time.